the power had finally been given to the working class, and that soon the paradise and utopian dreams of a communist society would be implemented. So they were, you could say that they believed that finally they had been able, as when you start a fire, that first there is smoke, there are some first initial sparks, but they didn't believe that there was a full-on fire yet. So you could say that they were trying to set this fire by spreading literally fire to all of Europe. And from there, they thought that it would spread throughout the world. They thought that it would go across the Atlantic Ocean to North America, to the US, which was naturally after the First World War probably considered to be, if not the most powerful state of the world, then at least on par with the British Empire. And also they wanted to spread that same revolution. They didn't believe that this was something that was limited to Western civilization or any specific cultures. They wanted to bring it to all the colonialized people. Today we would probably call it the Global South. During the Cold War, the Third World. But they envisioned simply in the same way that Islamists view their mission to spread Islam today, that there should be a global community, there should be a global, technically one world government. In the case of the Islamists.
But we've had this discussion before, and so just a slight diversion, but of course we don't see among contemporary Islamic countries any suggestion of brotherhood at all. I mean, it's bizarre, completely the opposite, in fact.
Yes.
And even if we bring it right up to date with Gaza, the Egyptians are keeping their gates pretty firmly locked against the potential refugees.
No, absolutely.
And particularly, I suspect, against they don't want contamination by Hamas.
Yes, yes. When it comes to the Muslim world and this idea of a global one-world government, if we compare it to the Soviet one, then in the case of Islam, they all, in the same way that you could say that the communists are looking back to Marx as their prophet, the Islamists, they look back to Muhammad and the initial caliphate that he created, which was, of course, spreading in a couple of decades. It went from a very limited area in Saudi Arabia to soon reaching southern Spain, the western edge of China, going into India. So the geographical spread was enormous, and their appetite was to keep on spreading Islam even further. Then you had various different Islamic caliphates. Sometimes they were competing against each other, but they always had this this ambition that they were the only legitimate authority on the planet.
Exactly, which something I think even the Pope has never quite claimed.
Yes, and they were trying to spread as far as possible. So finally, when the Ottoman Empire fell, and in 1924, the caliphate was dissolved. By the way, the 100th anniversary is coming up, so some of the Islamists, ISIS, for example, was talking a lot about this 100th anniversary being the moment when finally the caliphate makes its big comeback in the world. Naturally, they proclaimed the caliphate even earlier, but they wanted this geographical expansion a little bit later.
And yet, interesting, when you think of the Ottoman Empire, of course, it was remarkably tolerant. To say it was the centre of the caliphate, it was Jews, Christians, other people could, with very limited control, go about their daily business. Something interestingly, which I do think is interesting, but it's always fun to diverge, which we did see under the great trio of Mubarak in Egypt and Gaddafi in Libya and Saddam Hussein in Iraq, that in actual fact they were not particularly religious. They were sort of paid lip service to Islam, but they were tolerant of other religions. They did keep the Muslim Brotherhood in check and were really just sort of kleptomaniacs. And we really, I think, have, in world terms, done a great disservice when we interfered, because now we have created this huge crescent of Islam, which is wholly intolerant of anything. And that was, I think, a big mistake when the history books are written.
Yes, no, the growth of Islamism is this exact struggle. After the fall of the Ottoman Empire, you could say that modern Islamism, naturally if we look at the Wahhabi roots, the Salafi roots, there are some older examples. For example, Wahhabism comes from Ibn Wahhab, the creator of that ideology, who lived during the 18th century in what is today Saudi Arabia.
Adam, the clock in the corner of the studio is blinking at me, so I'm afraid we must bring this programme to an end. Thank you. We'll pick it up next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not. If you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll continue the story. In the meantime, thank you for watching Poland Daily History.